My name is Hannah Ellis. I was the only one who made it back from Caddo Lake. But my reflection doesn't move like it used to. I'm writing this down because I need to get it out, and because the therapist my sister found for me says it might help. I don't think it will. I don't think anything will. But I'll try. This happened last August. 6 of us rented RVs and drove down to Texas for a week-long vacation. It was supposed to be fun. Cassie and I had been planning it for months. Just a group of friends getting away from our lives in Chicago, disconnecting, enjoying nature. The usual bullshit people say when they want to pretend they're not running from something. The group was me and Cassie, my best friend since college. Then there was Cassie's boyfriend Marcus, who worked in finance and never stopped talking about investments. My boyfriend at the time, Derek, who sold software and had started getting weird about marriage. And finally, Marcus's college friends, Jenna, who did something with social media marketing, and her husband Paul, who taught high school history. We weren't particularly close, the 6 of us. Cassie and I were tight, obviously. Marcus and Derek got along fine. Jenna and Paul were the outsiders, really, but they'd driven down from Dallas and it would have been rude not to include them. That's what Cassie said anyway. We arrived at the RV park late afternoon on a Sunday. The place was called Cypress Shores, tucked away on the eastern edge of Caddo Lake, right on the Texas-Louisiana border. The park itself was small, maybe 20 sites total, and half of them were empty. It was the off-season, the woman at the office explained. Too hot for most people. But we'd gotten a good deal on the rentals. The RVs were nothing special. 2 of them, 30-footers, parked side by side on concrete pads surrounded by cypress trees and Spanish moss. The moss hung everywhere, gray and stringy, making everything look older than it was. The air smelled like wet earth and decay, which I guess is normal for a swamp. But it bothered me from the start. Cassie loved it. She kept taking photos with her phone, posting them to Instagram with captions about authentic Southern Gothic vibes and off-the-grid adventures. Marcus unloaded coolers while Derek and Paul figured out the RV hookups. Jenna and I stood there swatting at mosquitoes, waiting for someone to tell us what to do. "You okay?" Jenna asked me. "Fine, just hot." "Yeah, this place is atmospheric." That was one word for it. I looked out at the lake through the trees. The water was dark, almost black, and perfectly still. No boats, no people, just water and cypress knees poking up like fingers. We spent the first night drinking and playing cards in Marcus and Cassie's RV, which was bigger. Everyone was in good spirits. Derek kept touching my knee under the table, which annoyed me. He'd been doing that lately, little possessive gestures like he was marking territory. We'd been together 2 years, and I was starting to realize I didn't actually like him very much. Around midnight, Cassie suggested we go night swimming. Marcus laughed and said she was crazy. Jenna agreed. There were alligators in the lake, she'd read online. But Cassie was insistent. She'd been drinking more than usual. "Come on, Hannah, live a little." "It's disgusting water," I said. "So, when's the next time we'll be in a swamp in Texas?" "Hopefully never." Everyone laughed. We stayed up until 2, and then Derek and I went back to our RV. He wanted to have sex, but I pretended I was too drunk and tired. He fell asleep quickly. I lay there listening to the sounds outside. Insects, something moving in the water, wind through the moss. I didn't sleep well that first night. I kept having dreams about drowning. The next day was Monday. We decided to rent a boat and explore the lake. The park had a small dock with a few aluminum fishing boats for rent. The guy who ran the place, an older man named Roy, set us up with 2 boats and gave us a map of the lake. "Stay out of the back channels unless you know what you're doing, he said. "Easy to get turned around in there." "Is it really that confusing?" Paul asked. "People get lost every year. Lake's bigger than it looks and the channels all wind around. Spanish moss blocks the sun, makes it hard to see. Cell phones don't work out there." "Sounds ominous," Jenna said, smiling. Roy didn't smile back. "Just be careful. And don't go near the old cypress stand on the north end. That's private property." We took the boats out around 10 in the morning. Marcus drove one with Cassie and me. Derek drove the other with Paul and Jenna. The lake was beautiful in daylight, I'll admit. The cypress trees rose out of the water like ancient pillars, draped in moss. The water reflected the sky perfectly, too perfectly, almost like glass. We cruised around for a couple hours, taking photos, drinking beer from the coolers we'd brought. At one point, we passed another boat with an older couple fishing. They waved, we waved back. Normal vacation stuff. Around noon, Cassie wanted to find the old cypress stand Roy had warned us about. Why? Marcus asked. Because he told us not to. That's not a reason. It's the best reason. I could tell Marcus was annoyed, but he was trying not to show it. That was their dynamic. Cassie pushed, Marcus gave in. They'd probably get married and divorced within 5 years. We followed the map north, Derek's boat trailing behind us. The channels got narrower and more winding. The Spanish moss grew thicker, blocking out more sunlight. It got noticeably cooler. The water turned darker, almost black. After about 20 minutes of navigating through increasingly tight passages, we found it. The old cypress stand. It was in a wide clearing where the channel opened up. Dozens of enormous cypress trees, centuries old probably, rising out of the water in a rough circle. Their trunks were massive, too big to put your arms around. The bark was gray and weathered, covered in patches of moss and fungi. In the center of the circle, there was what looked like a small island, maybe 20 feet across, covered in dead vegetation. Wow, Cassie said. This is incredible. It wasn't the word I would have used. The place felt wrong, too quiet. I realized I hadn't heard any birds or insects since we'd entered the channel. Derek pulled his boat up beside ours. What is this place? Roy's Forbidden Zone, Cassie said. Why would this be private property? Jenna asked. There's nothing here. Paul was looking at his phone. No signal, not even a little. He said that would happen, I reminded him. We floated there for a few minutes taking photos. Marcus wanted to leave, but Cassie insisted on pulling up to the island. She said she wanted to explore it. I told her that was a bad idea, but she was already climbing out of the boat into the shallow water near the shore. Marcus sighed and followed her. Derek did too. Because Derek had a crush on Cassie, he thought no one noticed. Paul looked at Jenna, and they both shrugged and got out of their boat. I stayed behind. Something about the place was making my skin crawl. From the boat, I watched them wade through the knee-deep water to the island. The ground was soft, almost muddy. Cassie kept laughing, making jokes about quicksand. Marcus took photos. Derek circled the perimeter. Paul and Jenna stood near the edge, holding hands. That's when I saw it. Just a flicker, really. In the water. My reflection. I was looking down at the surface, watching my reflection, and for just a second, less than a second, it smiled before I did. I looked up. Everyone was still on the island. No one had noticed anything. I looked back down at the water. My reflection was normal, doing exactly what I was doing. I must have imagined it. The heat, the weird atmosphere, the lack of sleep. I told myself that. They came back after about 10 minutes. Cassie was disappointed. There was nothing on the island except dead plants and mud. We took the boats back to the main channel and spent the rest of the afternoon floating around, drinking, trying to relax. But I couldn't shake the feeling from the old cypress stand. And I kept looking at my reflection in the water, checking to make sure it was still synchronized with me. That night, we grilled burgers and sat outside the RVs. The mosquitoes were worse after dark, but we had bug spray and citronella candles. Jenna told a story about a camping trip where she'd gotten lost in the woods for 6 hours. Paul talked about his students. Marcus and Derek argued about sports. Cassie was quiet, which wasn't like her. Around 9, I asked if she was okay. Yeah, just tired. You sure? I keep thinking about that island, she said. Did it seem weird to you? The whole place seemed weird. No, I mean, when I was standing there, I felt like someone was watching me. Like, really watching me. There was no one there. I know. That's what makes it weird. We went to bed early. Derek tried to initiate sex again, and I let him this time. mostly just to shut him up. Afterwards, I went to the bathroom to clean up. That's when I saw it again. The mirror in the RV bathroom was small, mounted above the sink. I was washing my hands and glanced up at my reflection. For just a moment, again, less than a second, my reflection's eyes were looking at something off to the side, but I was looking straight ahead at the mirror. I froze, stared at myself. My reflection stared back, perfectly synchronized. I must have imagined it. Heat, stress, lack of sleep. I said that to myself, but I didn't believe it. When I came back to bed, Derek was already asleep. I lay there for a long time, listening to him breathe, listening to the sounds of the swamp outside. At some point I fell asleep, but I dreamed again about drowning. In the dream, I was underwater, looking up at the surface, and someone else was looking down at me from above. Someone with my face. I woke up around 3 a.m. Derek was still asleep beside me, snoring softly. I needed water, so I got up and went to the kitchenette. As I poured water from the jug into a cup, I heard something outside. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps on the gravel between the RVs. I looked out the window. The moon was full and bright, casting long shadows through the cypress trees. I could see the other RV clearly, and I could see someone standing between the two vehicles. A woman, standing perfectly still, facing away from me. My heart started pounding. I couldn't see her face, but something about her shape, her posture, was familiar. She was wearing a white t-shirt and denim shorts, the same outfit I'd worn that day. The woman turned around slowly. It was me, my face, my hair, my body. It smiled at me. Then it walked away, disappearing into the trees toward the lake. I stood there, frozen, cup of water in my hand. My brain was trying to process what I'd just seen, trying to rationalize it, a trick of the moonlight, a stranger who happened to look like me, hallucination from stress and bad sleep. But I knew what I'd seen. I went back to bed and didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, Tuesday, I told Derek what I'd seen. He laughed at first, then realized I was serious. "You probably dreamed it," he said. I was awake. Sleepwalking then, or another camper. Derek, it looked exactly like me. "Hannah, come on, you know that's not possible." I wanted to tell him about the reflections in the water and the mirror, but I knew how it would sound. Crazy, paranoid, hysterical woman on vacation. So I dropped it. We met the others for breakfast at a picnic table between the RVs. Cassie made pancakes on a camp stove. Everyone seemed fine except Jenna, who looked tired. "Bad night?" I asked her. "Weird dreams," she said. "Really vivid ones." "About what?" "Drowning, mostly." My stomach dropped. "Me too." "Must be something in the air," Marcus joked. "Swamp gas." Paul laughed, but Jenna didn't. Neither did I. After breakfast, we decided to drive into the nearby town, Uncertain, Texas, which was a real place with a real name. The town was tiny, basically one main street with a few shops and a gas station. We walked around, bought some local honey and boiled peanuts, took photos in front of the welcome sign, but I couldn't focus. I kept watching reflections, in shop windows, in car mirrors, in puddles on the street. And every time I looked, there was a moment, just a moment, where my reflection seemed slightly off, a delay, a different angle, eyes looking the wrong direction. I started to think I was losing my mind. We got back to the RV park around 4 p.m. Roy was outside the office working on a lawnmower. We waved. He nodded but didn't wave back. "Friendly guy," Derek muttered. That evening, Cassie wanted to go swimming in the lake. I immediately said no. So did Jenna and Paul. But Marcus was game, and Derek said he'd go if everyone else did. Eventually, peer pressure won out and we all changed into swimsuits. The lake was warm and murky. You couldn't see more than a few inches below the surface. We stayed close to the shore near the dock where the water was only chest deep. Cassie and Marcus splashed around. Derek tried to dunk me and I got angry. Paul and Jenna floated on their backs, holding hands. I was waist deep in the water, standing still when I noticed something. The water was perfectly calm around me, no ripples from my movement. I looked down and saw my reflection on the surface, and my reflection was smiling. I wasn't smiling. I looked up quickly, heart racing. Everyone else was playing, laughing, not paying attention to me. I looked back down. Now my reflection matched my expression, concerned, frightened. "Hannah?" Cassie called. "You okay?" "Yeah, fine." But I wasn't fine. I got out of the water and went back to the RV, telling everyone I was cold. Derek followed a few minutes later, annoyed that I'd ruined the fun. That night I refused to look at any reflective surfaces. When I needed to use the bathroom, I kept my eyes down. When I brushed my teeth, I stared at the sink. Derek noticed and asked what was wrong. I told him I had a headache. Around 11, Cassie texted me. "You okay?" "Yeah, just tired." "You seem off." "I'm fine, just ready to go home." "We have 4 more days." "I know." I didn't tell her about the reflections. I didn't tell her I was terrified. I just said goodnight and turned off my phone. But I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to Derek snore, listening to the swamp sounds outside. Around 2 in the morning I heard the footsteps again. Slow, deliberate, on the gravel. I got up and looked out the window. The moon was still bright. And there she was again. Me, standing between the RVs, facing the lake, same white t-shirt and shorts. This time I didn't freeze. I grabbed Derek's shoulder and shook him awake. Derek, wake up." "What? What's wrong?" "Look out the window. Tell me what you see." He sat up, groggy, and looked out. "I don't see anything." "There, by the picnic table." "Hannah, there's nobody there." I looked. The figure was gone. "She was right there, I swear." Derek sighed. "You need to sleep, you're stressed out." "I'm not making this up." "I didn't say you were, but you're exhausted and you're seeing things. Maybe we should go home early." "No, I'm fine. Just forget it." He went back to sleep. I stayed up, watching the window, waiting for her to return. She didn't. Wednesday morning, Cassie knocked on our RV door around 8. She looked worried. "Have you seen Paul?" she asked. "What? No. Why?" "Jenna said he went for a walk last night around midnight and never came back. She fell asleep waiting for him." My stomach dropped. "Did she call him?" "No signal out here, remember? We're going to look for him. Can you and Derek help?" We got dressed and met everyone outside. Jenna was frantic, crying. Marcus was trying to calm her down. We split up to search. Marcus and Derek went toward the lake. Cassie and I went toward the road. Jenna stayed at the RVs in case Paul came back. Cassie and I walked the perimeter of the RV park, calling Paul's name. The sun was already hot. Mosquitoes swarmed us. We didn't find anything. After about 30 minutes, we heard Derek shouting from the lake. We ran back and found him standing at the edge of the water with Marcus. They were looking at something in the shallows. Paul's shirt, floating in the water near the dock. Jenna screamed when she saw it. We pulled her back. Marcus waded in and retrieved the shirt, checked the pockets. Paul's phone was inside, waterlogged and dead. "We need to call the police," I said. "There's no signal," Derek reminded me. "Then drive into town. Use the payphone at the gas station." Marcus and Derek left immediately. The rest of us stayed at the RVs with Jenna, who wouldn't stop crying. Cassie tried to comfort her. I sat on the picnic table, staring at the lake. I couldn't shake the feeling that something in the water had taken Paul. The police arrived around noon. 2 officers from the county sheriff's department. They took statements from all of us, searched the area around the lake, called in a dive team. Jenna kept asking if they thought Paul had drowned, and the officers said they didn't know yet. We spent the rest of Wednesday waiting. The dive team showed up around 2 and spent hours searching the water near the dock. They didn't find anything. No body, no signs of struggle, just the shirt. One of the officers, a woman named Deputy Reeves, talked to me privately. "Did Paul seem depressed, upset about anything?" "I don't know him that well," I said, "but he seemed fine yesterday." His wife said he'd been having bad dreams. We all have. Something about this place. She raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I didn't want to sound crazy, so I just said, the atmosphere, the swamp, it's unsettling. She nodded, but I could tell she thought I was overreacting. They left around 6 in the evening, promising to continue the search the next day. Jenna wanted to stay, hoping Paul would turn up. The rest of us agreed to stay with her, though I desperately wanted to leave. That night, none of us slept. We sat outside together, keeping watch, jumping at every sound. Jenna kept crying. Cassie held her hand. Marcus paced. Derek drank beer after beer. I stared at the lake, waiting for something to happen. Around 3 in the morning, we heard it. A voice calling from the water. Jenna. We all heard it. Jenna's head snapped up. That's Paul, she whispered. Jenna! The voice called again. It sounded exactly like Paul. She stood up. Paul? Where are you? Jenna, help me. She started walking toward the lake. Marcus grabbed her arm. That's not him, Marcus said. Let go of me. He needs help. Jenna, listen to me. That's not Paul. But she was already pulling away from him, running toward the water. We all ran after her. She stopped at the edge of the dock, looking out at the lake. Paul, where are you? Silence. Then, from the darkness, come in. The water's perfect. I grabbed Jenna from behind and pulled her back. She fought me, screaming Paul's name. Derek and Marcus helped me drag her away from the lake. She collapsed on the gravel, sobbing. That wasn't him, Cassie said quietly. That couldn't have been him. We brought Jenna back to her RV. Cassie stayed with her. The rest of us sat outside, no one speaking until the sun came up. Thursday morning, Paul walked out of the trees. He was soaking wet, covered in mud, but otherwise appeared unhurt. Jenna ran to him, screaming his name, throwing her arms around him. He stood there, stiff, not quite hugging her back. Paul, where were you? She cried. What happened? I don't remember, he said. His voice was flat, monotone. I went for a walk. Then I woke up in the water. You were gone all night. I'm sorry, I don't remember. The police came back. They took Paul to the hospital in the nearest city for evaluation. Jenna went with him. The rest of us stayed behind, trying to process what had happened. That was weird, right? Cassie said. The way he was acting? He was probably in shock, Marcus said. No, it was more than that. He seemed off. I thought about my reflection, the figure I'd seen between the RVs, the voice in the water. We should leave, I said. All of us, right now. We can't just abandon Jenna, Derek said. She's at the hospital with Paul. They'll be fine, but we need to go. Hannah's right, Cassie said. Something's wrong with this place. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. We started packing up. That's when I realized I hadn't seen my reflection act normally since we arrived. Every time I'd looked at a mirror, a window, the water, there was always that moment of delay. That moment where my reflection did something I didn't do. I was checking my face in the RV bathroom mirror, trying to see if I looked as exhausted as I felt, when my reflection blinked. I hadn't blinked. My reflection smiled. I wasn't smiling. My reflection leaned forward, closer to the glass, even though I was standing still. I backed away from the mirror, my heart hammering. My reflection stayed where it was for a moment, still smiling, then suddenly snapped back to normal, matching my position, my expression, my movement. I ran out of the RV. We need to leave right now, I told the others. I'm serious. Something is very wrong here. What happened? Cassie asked. I couldn't explain it. How could I explain it without sounding insane? Please, we just need to go. We finished packing. We loaded everything into the RVs. Marcus went to check out with Roy at the office. He came back 5 minutes later, pale. Roy's gone, he said. What do you mean gone? The office is empty, doors unlocked, no one inside. His truck's still here. Maybe he went for a walk, Derek suggested. His coffee was still hot, like he just left. We looked at each other. No one said anything. Fuck this, I said. We're leaving. We got in the RVs, me and Derek in one, Cassie and Marcus in the other. Derek started the engine, but before we could pull out, Jenna's car came tearing into the parking lot, kicking up gravel. She jumped out, frantic. "Don't leave!" she screamed. "Please don't leave!" "Jenna, what happened?" Cassie said. "Where's Paul?" "They're keeping him at the hospital for observation. They said..." She started crying. "They said something's wrong with him. He keeps talking about the water. He keeps saying he needs to go back to the water." "We'll come visit him," Marcus said. "But we need to go now." "No, you don't understand. Before they sedated him, he told me something. He said there's something in the lake, something old. He said it takes people and sends back copies." The word hit me like a punch. Copies. I thought about my reflection, the figure between the RVs, the voice in the water. "What did the doctor say?" Derek asked. "They think it's psychosis, brought on by trauma. But he's not crazy. I know he's not. He kept begging me to warn you. He said the lake doesn't let anyone leave unchanged." "That's insane," Marcus said, but his voice wasn't confident. "Is it?" I said quietly. "Haven't you noticed anything weird since we got here?" "Like what?" "Like yourselves, your reflections." They all looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Hannah, what are you talking about?" Cassie asked. "Check right now. Look at your reflection in the car window. Really look at it." They did. Derek looked in the RV's side mirror. Cassie looked in her car window. Marcus pulled out his phone and opened the camera app. I watched their faces change. Watched the realization hit them. "It's not moving right," Cassie whispered. "Oh my God, it's not moving right." Derek backed away from the mirror. "What the fuck? What the actual fuck?" Marcus stared at his phone screen. His reflection on the black screen was smiling at him, even though his real face was frozen in horror. "We need to leave," I said again. "Right now, before it's too late." We all piled into one RV, the bigger one. Derek drove. I sat in the passenger seat. The others were in the back. Jenna came with us, leaving her car behind. Derek pulled out of the RV park, heading toward the main road. But after about 5 minutes, we were back at the entrance to Cypress Shores. "What the hell?" Derek muttered. He turned around and tried again. Same result. 5 minutes of driving, we were back where we started. "The GPS isn't working," Marcus said from the back. "It keeps resetting." We tried 4 more times. Every route led us back to the RV park. "It's the lake," Jenna said. "It won't let us leave." "That's impossible," Derek said, but he sounded like he was trying to convince himself. We parked the RV and got out. The sun was starting to set. The shadows under the cypress trees were growing longer. "Maybe we can walk out," I suggested. "It's 20 miles to the nearest town," Marcus said. "Through swamp. So what's your plan, stay here?" No one had a good answer. We went back to the picnic area and sat down trying to think. The lake was perfectly still. No wind, no sounds, just us and the water and the trees. That's when Cassie screamed. She was pointing at the lake. We all looked. 5 figures were standing in the water, about 50 feet from shore, just standing there, perfectly still. They looked exactly like us. Me, Derek, Cassie, Marcus, Jenna, our doubles, staring at us. "Oh my God," Jenna whispered. The figures started walking toward the shore, slowly, deliberately. "Get back in the RV," I said. "Now." We ran. Derek fumbled with the keys, got the door open. We all piled inside and locked it. Derek started the engine again, trying to drive away, but we kept ending up back at the same spot. Outside, the figures reached the shore. They stood there, dripping wet, watching us. My double raised her hand and waved. I waved back before I could stop myself. "Don't interact with them," Marcus said. "Don't acknowledge them." But it was too late. My double smiled, that same smile I'd seen in the mirror, and started walking toward the RV. The others followed. 5 copies of us, approaching the vehicle. They surrounded it. They looked in the windows. They didn't blink. They didn't breathe. They just stared. Then Derek's double spoke. His voice was perfectly clear even through the glass. "Let us in." "Fuck no," Derek said. "Let us in," my double said. "We just want to talk." "Go away," Cassie screamed. "Leave us alone." They started knocking on the RV. Gently at first, then harder. The whole vehicle shook. "We could break the windows," Marcus's double said calmly. "But we're trying to be polite." "What do you want?" I yelled. My double looked directly at me. "We want to finish the trade." "What trade?" "You took the boats to the old cypress stand. You walked on the island. That's when we started. The trade, piece by piece. We take a little of you, you take a little of us, until there's nothing left of the original." I felt sick. "Paul," I whispered. My double nodded. "Paul completed the trade. Now he's one of us. And you're all halfway there." "How do we stop it?" Jenna asked. "You don't. It's already done. Look at yourselves, really look." She pointed at the RV's mirror. I turned. In the reflection I could see myself clearly, and I was smiling. But I wasn't smiling. I watched my reflection lift its hand and place it against the inside of the mirror, like it was pressing against glass from the other side. The me outside the RV did the same thing, hand against the window. I realized then what had happened. What was happening? The version of me outside wasn't trying to get in. The version of me inside was trying to get out. "Which one is real?" I whispered. "Does it matter?" my double asked. "You're both you. We're both us. The lake doesn't replace, it multiplies, it reflects, and reflections have the same claim to existence as the original." The pounding on the RV got louder, more insistent. "Let us in," all 5 doubles said in unison. "Or we'll wait, we have time. You'll have to come out eventually." They were right. We had limited food, limited water. We couldn't stay in here forever. "What happens if we let you in?" Marcus asked. "Nothing bad," his double said. "We'll coexist. We'll share your lives, your memories, your relationships. No one will know the difference, not even you eventually." "That's insane," Cassie said. Her double smiled. "Is it? You've already been sharing your life with us for days. You haven't noticed. Everyone back home won't notice either. We'll slip in seamlessly." "No," I said. "No, absolutely not." My double pressed harder against the window. "Hannah, be reasonable. You can't stay in there. And you can't leave the lake. These are your only options. Let us in, or starve. Which do you choose?" I looked at the others. Derek was pale, shaking. Cassie was crying. Marcus looked like he was going to be sick. Jenna was catatonic, staring at nothing. "There has to be another way," I said. "There isn't." We sat in silence for a long time. The doubles waited patiently outside. The sun finished setting. Darkness fell over the lake. Around midnight, Derek made a decision. "I'm letting them in," he said. "Derek, no. Hannah, we don't have a choice. We can't stay here. We can figure something out. There's nothing to figure out. It's over." He reached for the door handle. "Wait," Marcus said. "Let's at least vote on it." "Vote?" Derek laughed bitterly. "This isn't a democracy, it's survival." He opened the door. The doubles came in immediately. Not violently, calmly, like they'd been invited to a party. They sat down among us. My double sat across from me, still smiling. "Thank you," she said. I didn't respond. I couldn't. We sat there all night, originals and copies mixed together, impossible to tell apart. By morning, I wasn't sure which version of me was which. Friday, we drove back to the RV park office. Roy was there, sitting behind the desk, like he'd never left. "You folks checking out?" he asked. "Yes," Marcus said. His voice sounded normal, too normal. Roy nodded. "Hope you enjoyed your stay. Come back anytime." We checked out. We loaded up the RVs. We drove away from Caddo Lake. This time we didn't loop back. The GPS worked. The roads led where they were supposed to. In 6 hours we were back in Chicago. We said our goodbyes in the parking lot. Jenna said she'd drive to the hospital to pick up Paul when he was released. The rest of us went home to our apartments. Derek and I didn't talk on the drive home. When we got to my place, I told him I needed space. He didn't argue. He just nodded and left. I haven't seen him since. I haven't seen any of them since. I've tried calling Cassie, but she doesn't answer. Her social media hasn't been updated. Marcus's too. It's like they've disappeared, even though I know they're out there somewhere, living their lives. Or their doubles are living their lives. I don't know which. I started seeing the therapist 3 weeks after we got back. I told her I'd had a traumatic experience on vacation, but I didn't explain what happened. How could I? She'd think I was psychotic. She prescribed me medication for anxiety. It doesn't help. I avoid mirrors now, reflective surfaces. I don't look at windows when I walk by them. I don't check my appearance in the bathroom. I just exist, trying not to see myself. But sometimes I catch glimpses, and when I do, I see her, my double, smiling at me, waving, like she's trying to remind me she's there. Last week, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Having fun with my life? I blocked it. 2 days ago, I got a Facebook friend request from Hannah Ellis. The profile picture was me, but I never created that account. I reported it. Facebook said they'd investigate. This morning, I saw her, my double, standing across the street from my apartment watching my window. She waved. Then she walked away, disappearing into the crowd. I don't know what she wants. I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that I went to Caddo Lake with 5 friends, and something came back with us. Maybe it came back inside us, maybe it came back instead of us. I look in the mirror sometimes now, when I can't avoid it, and I check to see if I'm still me. But I don't know what that means anymore. If my reflection can think and feel and want things, is she less real than I am? The therapist says I'm dissociating. That trauma can make you feel disconnected from yourself. She says with time and treatment, I'll feel whole again. But I know the truth. I'm not disconnected from myself. I'm just sharing space with someone else. Someone who looks exactly like me, who knows everything I know, who wants everything I want. And I don't know which one of us is the original. Sometimes I think I'm the one who walked out of the lake. Sometimes I think I'm the one who stayed in the RV. Sometimes I think there's no difference at all. My name is Hannah Ellis. I was the only one who made it back from Caddo Lake. But my reflection doesn't move like it used to, and I'm not sure I'm the one in control anymore. My name is Ethan Clark. Every time we slept, we woke up later than we should have, and it was always closer. I need to write this down while I still remember it clearly, while I still trust my own memory. The doctors say I have severe PTSD, possible dissociative episodes. They don't believe most of what I told the police. Maya's family certainly doesn't believe me, but I know what happened in Kisatchie Forest, even if I can't explain it. We left Houston on a Thursday morning in early October. Maya and I had been together for 3 years, and things had been tense for the past 6 months. Work stress mostly. I'm a software developer, always on call, always staring at screens. She's an ICU nurse at Methodist, working 12-hour shifts that left her exhausted. We barely saw each other. When we did, we were too tired to do more than eat takeout and scroll through our phones in silence. The RV trip was her idea. We need to get away, she said one night in August. Like, actually away. No Wi-Fi, no work emails, just us. I'd been skeptical. I'm not much of an outdoorsy person. My idea of camping is a hotel without room service. But she'd looked at me with those brown eyes, the ones that had convinced me to move in with her 2 years ago, and I'd agreed. We rented a 30-foot RV from a place off I-10. The guy who ran the rental lot was probably 70 with skin like leather and suspicious eyes. He walked us through everything, the hookups, the water system, the generator. "Where you headed?" he asked as I signed the paperwork. "Kisatchie Forest," Maya said. "Valentine Lake RV Park." The old man's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. That's good country out there. Real quiet. That's what we're hoping for, I said. He handed me the keys. Don't stay out past dark if you go hiking. Easy to get turned around in those woods. Standard outdoorsy advice. I barely registered it at the time. The drive took about 4 hours. Maya navigated while I white-knuckled the steering wheel, terrified of sideswiping someone in this massive vehicle. By the time we crossed into Louisiana, my shoulders were locked with tension. Relax, Maya said, reaching over to squeeze my hand. You're doing fine. This thing handles like a drunk elephant. She laughed. It was the first time I'd heard her really laugh in weeks. That sound made the entire uncomfortable drive worth it. Kisatchie Forest sprawled across central Louisiana, a mix of pine and hardwood that the GPS tried and failed to adequately map. We passed through the town of Natchitoches around 2 in the afternoon, grabbed lunch at a Sonic, then headed deeper into the forest. Valentine Lake RV Park sat about 8 miles off the main highway, down a winding dirt road that made the RV bounce and creak. The park itself was small, maybe 20 sites total, arranged in a rough semicircle around a clearing. Only 3 other RVs were there, and they looked like they'd been parked for the season. The office was a small cabin near the entrance. A woman in her 50s came out as we pulled up. She had the same weathered look as the rental guy, like the sun and wind had been working on her face for decades. "You must be the Clarks," she said. "I'm Jan. Got you in Site 12 all the way in the back. Nice and private." She walked us through the check-in process, gave us a map of the area, pointed out the bathhouse and the trails that wound into the forest. "Lake's about a quarter mile that way," she said, pointing east. "Good fishing, if you're into that." "Any other guests we should know about?" Maya asked. "Ralph and Donna have been here since September in Site 3. Quiet folks keep to themselves. The Sandersons are in Site 7. They're from Dallas, just here for the weekend. And there's a guy in Site 18 came in yesterday. Didn't catch his name." She paused. "Cell service is pretty spotty out here, just so you know." "That's okay," I said. "We're trying to disconnect anyway." Jan smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Well, you'll get plenty of that. Let me know if you need anything." Site 12 was tucked into the trees at the far end of the park, separated from the other sites by a good 50 yards and a thick stand of pines. It was perfect, private, quiet, with a picnic table and a fire ring. We spent the next hour setting up, hooking up the water and electricity, getting the RV leveled. By the time we finished, it was almost 5. The sun angled through the trees, casting long shadows across the clearing. Maya started unpacking food for dinner while I set up our camping chairs by the fire ring. "This is nice," she said, coming out with 2 beers. "I think this was a good idea." "Let's wait until I haven't screwed something up before we celebrate," I said, but I was smiling. We cooked burgers on the portable grill, sat by the fire as the sky darkened, talked about nothing important. It felt like old times, before the stress and exhaustion had settled into our relationship like sediment. Around 9, we went inside. Maya wanted to shower, and I pulled out my laptop out of habit before remembering we had no internet. I played a few rounds of solitaire instead, half listening to the sound of the water running. She came out in her pajamas, hair wet, smelling like soap and shampoo. "Your turn." I showered quickly. The RV's hot water tank wasn't huge and I didn't want to use it all up. When I came out, Maya was already in bed, scrolling through photos on her phone. "No service," she said, not looking up. "Can't even send a text." "That's kind of the point." "I know, it's just weird." She set her phone on the nightstand. "Come to bed." I climbed in beside her. The RV's bed was smaller than our queen at home, but it was comfortable enough. Through the window over the bed, I could see stars between the tree branches. "I love you," Maya said quietly. "Love you too." I set my phone alarm for 7 a.m., plugged it into the charger, and turned off the light. Maya was asleep within minutes, her breathing slow and steady. I lay awake a bit longer, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the forest. Wind in the trees, the distant hoot of an owl, the creaking of the RV settling. Eventually, I drifted off. I woke to sunlight streaming through the window and Maya shaking my shoulder. Ethan, wake up. I blinked, disoriented. What time is it? That's what I'm asking you. Look at your phone. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand. The screen showed 1:47 p.m. I stared at it. That couldn't be right. I'd set the alarm for 7. I looked at the alarm. It showed as going off at 7:00 a.m., but there was no record of me dismissing it or snoozing it. It was just off. Did you turn off my alarm? I asked. No. Mine says the same thing. Almost 2 in the afternoon. She held up her phone. Same time. Ethan, we slept for 14 hours. That's impossible. Then explain why it's past lunch and we both just woke up. I sat up, rubbing my face. My body didn't feel like I'd slept 14 hours. I felt groggy, sure, but not well rested. If anything, I felt more tired than when I'd gone to bed. Maybe the time zone is wrong on the phones, I said. We're not even in a different time zone, we're still in Central. I got up and checked the clock on the RV's dashboard. 1:49 p.m., same as our phones. Maya stood in the middle of the RV, arms crossed. This doesn't make sense. We were tired. We drove 4 hours, set up camp, stayed up late by the fire. Maybe we were more exhausted than we thought. You really think we both just slept through the entire morning? Through 2 separate alarms? I didn't have a good answer for that, but the alternative, that something else had happened, didn't make sense either. Look, I said, we're here to relax. Maybe our bodies just needed the rest. Let's not overthink it. She didn't look convinced, but she nodded. Okay, fine. But I'm hungry. Let's get some food. We made a late lunch, sandwiches and chips, and ate outside at the picnic table. The afternoon was warm, the sun filtering through the trees in dappled patterns. Other than the lost hours, everything seemed normal, peaceful even. After we ate, we decided to walk down to the lake. The trail John had pointed out started near our site, a narrow path through the pines marked with faded blue blazes on the trees. The forest was thick here, the canopy closing overhead. Our footsteps were muffled by a carpet of pine needles. Maya walked ahead of me, her camera in hand, stopping occasionally to photograph mushrooms or interesting tree bark. I think I heard something, she said after we'd been walking for maybe 10 minutes. I stopped. What kind of something? I don't know, like footsteps behind us? We both listened. I heard wind, the rustle of leaves, a distant bird call. Nothing that sounded like footsteps. Probably just a deer, I said. Yeah, probably. But she kept glancing over her shoulder as we walked. The lake was bigger than I'd expected, maybe 20 acres, surrounded by thick vegetation. The water was dark, reflecting the trees and sky like a mirror. A wooden dock extended maybe 30 feet into the water, weathered and gray. We walked out onto the dock. It swayed slightly under our weight, boards creaking. It's pretty, Maya said, taking a photo. Yeah. She lowered her camera. You okay? You seem distracted. Just thinking about the time thing. Ethan, let it go. We're supposed to be relaxing. I know, you're right. I forced a smile. Want to go back and start a fire? We walked back to the campsite as the sun started to sink lower. The shadows were longer now, the light taking on that golden quality it gets in the late afternoon. I kept checking my phone, verifying the time matched reality. It did, as far as I could tell. Back at the site, I got a fire going while Maya prepped dinner. We'd brought steaks, and I set up the grill over the fire. The smell of cooking meat filled the air as darkness crept through the trees. This is good, Maya said, sitting in her camping chair with a glass of wine. This is what we needed. I agreed, but I couldn't shake a vague unease that had settled over me. Something about losing those hours bothered me more than I wanted to admit. We ate dinner, cleaned up, sat by the fire as it burned down to coals. Maya leaned against me, her head on my shoulder. Above us, the stars were stunning, more than I'd ever seen in Houston. The Milky Way stretched across the sky like a smear of light. "I don't want to go back," Maya said quietly. "To Houston. To everything. Work, bills, stress. I just want to stay here. We have 5 more days. I know, but it won't be enough." Around 10:30 we went inside. Maya took her medication, she'd been on Lexapro for the past year for anxiety, and brushed her teeth. I checked that everything outside was secure, that the fire was completely out. "You coming to bed?" she called from the bedroom. "Yeah, give me a minute." I stood at the door of the RV looking out at the darkness between the trees. The forest was alive with sounds, insects, wind, the distant call of what might have been an owl. But underneath those sounds, or maybe woven between them, was a quality of silence that felt heavy, expectant. I shook off the feeling and went inside, locking the door behind me. Maya was already under the covers. I climbed in beside her, set my phone alarm for 7 a.m. and turned off the light. "Good night," she murmured. "Night." I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathing even out as she fell asleep. My own sleep was slower to come. I kept thinking about those lost hours, trying to remember any dreams I might have had, any sense of time passing, but there was nothing. Just going to sleep and then waking up with 6 hours missing in between. Eventually, exhaustion pulled me under. When I opened my eyes, it was dark. Not morning dark, but full night dark. I fumbled for my phone. 3:23 a.m. I frowned at the screen. Why was I awake? I didn't need to use the bathroom, wasn't thirsty. My heart was racing, though. That feeling you get when you wake from a nightmare you can't quite remember. Beside me, Maya was still asleep, her back to me. I watched her shoulder rise and fall with her breathing. Everything seemed fine. I set my phone back on the nightstand and tried to get comfortable again. That's when I heard it, a sound from outside, faint but distinct. Footsteps on gravel. I held my breath, listening. There it was again. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Someone walking around the RV. My first thought was that it was probably just another camper, maybe walking to the bathhouse. But the nearest occupied site was 50 yards away, and these footsteps were right outside our RV. The steps stopped. Silence for maybe 30 seconds. Then they started again, moving from the passenger side toward the front of the RV. I eased out of bed, careful not to wake Maya. The RV had curtains over all the windows, but I pulled one aside just enough to peek out. The clearing was dark, lit only by starlight. I couldn't see anyone. But even as I watched, I heard the footsteps again, now near the driver's side. I moved to that window, looked out. Nothing, just trees and shadows. The footsteps stopped. Then, after a long moment, they started again, moving away from the RV, toward the trees. I stood there for several minutes waiting to see if they'd come back. They didn't. Eventually, my heart rate slowed, and I convinced myself it had been an animal. A deer or raccoon, maybe. The sounds had probably been distorted by the RV's walls. I went back to bed, checked my phone. 3:41 a.m. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep. "Ethan! Ethan!" Maya's voice pulled me back to consciousness. I opened my eyes to find her standing over me, still in her pajamas, her face tight with confusion. "What time do you think it is?" she asked. I grabbed my phone. The screen showed 2:15 p.m. "No," I said. "No, that can't be right." "It is." I checked every clock. "Ethan, we lost another 6 hours." I sat up. My head felt stuffed with cotton, my body heavy. I woke up at 3:30. I heard something outside and... "What do you mean you woke up?" "Last night, this morning, whatever." I woke up around 3:30, heard footsteps outside. I looked but didn't see anything. Maya stared at me. "I didn't hear you get up. You were asleep. I was only up for maybe 20 minutes. Ethan, if you woke up at 3:30 and it's now after 2 in the afternoon, that means we both slept for another 10 hours after that." The math was simple, but my brain refused to accept it. I'd been awake at 3:41 a.m. I'd checked my phone. I'd gotten back into bed. Had I really fallen asleep for another 10 hours without waking up, without my alarm going off? I checked my phone. The alarm was set for 7:00 a.m., but just like yesterday, there was no record of it going off or being dismissed. It was just not active. "This is really weird," Maya said. She sat on the edge of the bed, running her hands through her hair. "Something's wrong, Ethan. Let me check something." I got dressed and went outside. The day was overcast, the sky a uniform gray. I walked around the RV looking for signs of someone having been there last night. The ground was soft from recent rain, and there should have been footprints if someone had been walking around. There were footprints, lots of them. But they were all wrong. The prints circled the RV, but they didn't lead anywhere. They didn't come from the road or the trees. They just appeared in a circle around the RV and then ended. Like someone had materialized, walked around our RV multiple times, then vanished. I stood there staring at them, my brain trying to make sense of it. The prints were barefoot too. Not boot prints or shoe prints. Bare human feet, walking on gravel and mud. "Maya," I called. "Come look at this." She came outside, followed my pointing finger to the prints. Her face went pale. "What the hell?" she whispered. "I don't know." We both stood there, looking at the impossible footprints. Then Maya said, "We should leave." "What?" This isn't normal, Ethan. Losing time, footprints that don't make sense. We should pack up and go home." Part of me agreed with her. But another part, the part that had paid for the RV rental and convinced myself this trip was worth it, resisted. "Let's not panic," I said. "There's probably an explanation. Maybe it was one of the other campers and the prints just look weird because of the mud. Barefoot? People do that. Hippie types." She didn't look convinced, but she nodded slowly. "Okay, but if anything else weird happens, we're leaving. Agreed?" Agreed. We spent the rest of the afternoon trying to act normal. We made sandwiches, read books, played cards, but the unease sat between us like a third person. Every sound from the forest made us both tense. The light seemed wrong, too, flat and gray without the warmth of yesterday's sun. Around 4, Maya's phone chimed. "Oh, I have service," she said. "Must have caught a signal." She pulled up her messages, started scrolling. Then her expression changed. "Ethan, what's today's date?" "Friday, October 12th. "Look at this." She held up her phone. The date stamp on her notifications showed October 13th, 5:47 p.m. I checked my phone. No service, but the date in the corner showed October 13th. "The time's off," I said. "Remember, we woke up late." "No, you're not getting it. Look at my messages. I got these text notifications throughout the day, at 8 a.m., 10 a.m., noon, while we were asleep. They show me as active on various apps during those hours." She pulled up her step counter. 847 steps today, it claimed. Her phone's location history showed her moving around, taking a walk to the lake at 9 a.m., sitting at the picnic table at 11 a.m. "That's not possible," I said. "You were asleep." "Then explain this." I couldn't. My own phone had no service, so I couldn't check my own activity. But the implications were chilling. Either our phones were glitching in sync with each other or something else was happening. Something I didn't want to think about. "Maybe we're sick," Maya said. "Carbon monoxide poisoning or something, making us sleep and lose time." "The RV has detectors. They'd have gone off." "Then what? What's happening to us?" I didn't have an answer. We sat in the gathering darkness, neither of us wanting to voice what we were both thinking, that we needed to leave now before we lost more time. But by then the sun was setting, and the idea of navigating that dark, winding forest road in the RV felt more dangerous than staying put. "We'll leave first thing tomorrow," I said. "I'll set multiple alarms. We'll leave at dawn, no matter what." Maya nodded, but I could see the fear in her eyes. We didn't cook dinner. Neither of us had an appetite. We locked the RV, checked the locks twice, and sat inside as darkness fell completely. Around 8, Maya took her medication. She sat on the couch, staring at nothing. "I keep thinking about those footprints," she said. "Try not to. They didn't go anywhere, Ethan. They just were there." "I know." "What if—" She stopped. "What? What if it's us? What if we're sleepwalking or something and that's why we can't remember?" It was as good an explanation as any. I wanted to believe it, but the footprints had been too small for my feet, and Maya's feet were different from the prints too. "Maybe," I said anyway. We went to bed at 9, both of us exhausted but wired with anxiety. I set 5 different alarms on my phone, all between 5 and 6 a.m. Maya did the same. "We're getting out of here tomorrow," she said as I turned off the light. "Absolutely." I held her hand in the darkness. Her palm was sweaty, her grip tight. "I love you," she said. "Love you too." We lay there in silence. My eyes adjusted to the darkness, and I could make out the shapes of the RV's interior. The door to the bathroom, the windows with their curtains drawn. Outside, the forest was alive with its usual night sounds. I don't remember falling asleep. One moment I was lying there wide awake, and the next, I opened my eyes to find Maya's face inches from mine. She was awake, propped up on one elbow, staring at me. "Hey," I said, my voice rough from sleep. "What time is it?" She didn't answer. She just kept staring. "Maya?" Her lips curved into a smile, but it was wrong. Too wide, too fixed. Her eyes didn't match the smile. They were flat, vacant. "Maya, you're scaring me." "We slept good," she said. Her voice was hers, but the inflection was off. Like someone doing an impression of Maya who'd never actually met her. I sat up, pulling away from her. "What time is it?" She finally looked away from me, down at her phone on the nightstand. 4:17 p.m. My stomach dropped. No, that can't be. "Saturday, October 14th, she continued in that strange, flat voice. "We lost 20 hours this time." I grabbed my phone. All 5 alarms had been turned off. Not snoozed, just switched off. And the date confirmed it. Saturday, October 14th, 4:17 p.m. We'd lost an entire day. "How?" I managed. "How is this possible?" Maya swung her legs out of bed. She was moving differently, I realized. Her usual grace was gone, replaced with something jerky and mechanical. She walked to the window and pulled the curtain aside. "It's getting darker sooner," she observed. "Maya, what's wrong with you?" She turned to look at me, and that wrong smile was still on her face. "Nothing's wrong. Why would something be wrong?" "You're acting weird." "Am I?" She tilted her head like a bird. "How am I acting?" "Not like yourself. But I am myself, see?" She gestured at her body. "This is me. This is Maya." The way she said it, "This is Maya, not I am Maya," made my skin crawl. I got out of bed, keeping the mattress between us. "We need to leave. Right now." "We can't leave." "Why not?" "Because it's almost dark, and we sleep when it's dark." "No. We're leaving now. Pack your things." She didn't move. She just stood there, framed by the window, that smile on her face. Then she said, "You shouldn't have come here, Ethan." "What?" "This place, these woods, they're hungry. They've been hungry for a long time." "Maya. And every time you sleep, you feed them a little more. Hours of your life. Days. Soon there won't be enough left of you to wake up." My mouth went dry. "That's not funny." "I'm not joking." She took a step toward me. "Can't you feel it? How much lighter you are? How much less there is of you?" I backed toward the door. "Who are you?" "I told you. I'm Maya." Another step. "You're Maya. Don't you recognize me?" Everything about her appearance was right. Her face, her hair, her body. But whatever was behind her eyes wasn't my girlfriend, wasn't human. I turned and ran for the door, got it open, burst out into the overcast afternoon. The RV park was silent. The other 3 RVs sat in their sights, but there was no sign of life around them. No campfires, no people moving around. I ran toward the office, my feet slapping on the gravel road. Behind me, I heard the RV door open. "Ethan!" Maya's voice, but still wrong. "Where are you going?" The office was locked, the lights off. I pounded on the door. "Jan, hello? Anyone?" No answer. I looked back. Maya was walking toward me, taking her time. That smile never wavered. I ran past the office toward the park entrance. My car keys were back in the RV, along with my wallet and everything else. But if I could just get to the main road, flag someone down. The entrance gate was closed. Not just closed, padlocked with a heavy chain. I grabbed the gate, shook it. Solid. No way through. And the fence on either side extended into the thick forest, topped with barbed wire. "We're closed, Maya said from behind me. "Didn't you see the sign?" I spun around. She was maybe 20 feet away, still approaching with that measured pace. "What did you do with her?" I demanded. "Where's Maya?" "I am Maya." "No, you're not." She stopped walking. The smile faded. "You're right. I'm not. Not entirely. Maya is still in here, but she's sleeping so deeply. And every hour you lose is an hour I grow stronger in her skin. Let her go." "She doesn't want to go. Don't you understand? Every time you sleep, you give us permission. You invite us in. And the longer you sleep, the deeper we go until there's nothing left but us wearing you like clothes." I looked around frantically. The forest pressed in on all sides, dense and dark. The other RVs were silent. No one was coming to help. "What do you want?" I asked. "Time," she said simply. "That's all we've ever wanted. You have so much of it, you waste it so carelessly. We just want a little. And then a little more, and then—" She lunged. I dodged sideways, stumbled, fell hard on the gravel. She was on me immediately, stronger than Maya should have been, hands wrapping around my throat. Her face was inches from mine, and up close I could see it, the wrongness around her eyes, the way her pupils were too large, too dark. "Just sleep," she whispered. "Just let go." I couldn't breathe. Black spots danced in my vision. My hand scrabbled at hers, but her grip was iron. Then, behind her eyes, I saw something flicker. A flash of brown I recognized. Maya's eyes. The real Maya, trapped somewhere behind that thing wearing her face. I stopped fighting her hands. Instead, I reached up and cupped her face, the way I'd done 1,000 times before. "Maya," I said, even though I had no air to say it. "I love you." The hands on my throat loosened. Just for a second. Just enough. I twisted, rolled, got my knee up and shoved her off. She fell back, and I scrambled to my feet, running before she could recover. I didn't go for the gate again. Instead, I ran into the forest, crashing through underbrush, branches whipping at my face. Behind me, I heard her following, moving impossibly fast through the trees. The forest was thick, the light fading fast. I had no plan, no direction. I just ran. Something caught my foot, a root or vine, and I went down hard. My head cracked against something solid. Lights burst behind my eyes. When my vision cleared, Maya was standing over me. The smile was back. "You can't run," she said. "There's nowhere to go. The forest is ours, has been for longer than you can imagine." I tried to get up, but my body wouldn't respond. Blood ran down the side of my face from where I'd hit my head. She knelt beside me. "It'll be easier if you just sleep. Then I can finish what we started. Take all of you, the way we've taken all of her. You'll still be here, in a way, a memory inside your own skin." "Fight it, Maya," I said. "I know you're still in there." "Oh, she is. She's screaming, actually, but no one can hear her, not even you." She reached out and touched my forehead. The moment her fingers made contact, I felt it, a pulling sensation like something trying to drag me down into darkness, into sleep. I fought it, but I was so tired. We'd lost so many hours, so much time. How much of me was even left? "That's it," she whispered. "Just let go." My eyes started to close. Then I heard it, a voice from deeper in the forest. "Ethan? Ethan, where are you?" Maya's, the thing wearing Maya's face, head snapped up. The voice was Maya's voice, the real one, not the flat imitation. "That's not possible," it said. The voice came again. "Ethan, I can't find you." The grip on my forehead loosened. I opened my eyes to see confusion on her face, then fear. "No," it said. "No, you're inside. You're sleeping. You can't. Ethan." Closer now. I could hear footsteps, branches breaking. The thing wearing Maya's body stood up, backing away from me. "This isn't right. You're supposed to be sleeping. We took you." Then I saw her, the real Maya, stumbling through the trees, her pajamas torn, her feet bleeding. She looked barely conscious, like a sleepwalker, but her eyes were open. "Ethan," she said when she saw me. "What's happening? Where are we?" The other Maya, the wrong one, let out a sound that wasn't human, a shriek of rage and frustration that made the trees seem to shudder. "You can't have both!" it screamed. "If she's awake, then—" It looked down at its hands, at Maya's hands. They were fading, becoming translucent. I could see the trees through them. "No," it said again. "No, we were so close to taking it all." Maya, the real Maya, collapsed beside me. I reached for her with arms that could barely move. Our fingers touched. The fake Maya was dissolving now, its form breaking apart like smoke. Through its fading body I could see the forest, and beyond that something else. Something vast and hungry and patient, made of darkness and time itself. "We'll wait," it said, its voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere. "You'll sleep again. You have to sleep, and when you do, we'll be there. We'll always be there." Then it was gone. I don't know how long we lay there on the forest floor. Minutes, maybe. Hours. Time felt broken, unreliable. Eventually, I managed to sit up. Maya was unconscious but breathing. I picked her up. She felt impossibly light, and carried her through the trees. I didn't know which direction I was going, but it didn't matter. I just kept walking. I don't remember finding the road. The police report says a truck driver spotted us stumbling along Highway 1-19 around midnight. He called for an ambulance. Maya woke up in the hospital 3 days later. She didn't remember anything after taking her medication that first night. The doctor said it was trauma, that her mind had blocked it out. My story didn't match anyone else's. Jan, the park manager, said we'd only been there one night, that we'd checked out Saturday morning and seemed fine. The other campers said they'd never seen us. The RV rental company confirmed we'd returned the vehicle on Saturday afternoon, only a day and a half after we'd picked it up. But the calendar on my phone, my computer, Maya's activity logs, they all showed we'd lost 3 days. 3 days that everyone else said never happened. The police investigated. They found no evidence of carbon monoxide, no drugs in our systems, no sign of anyone else at the campsite. They concluded we'd experienced some kind of shared delusion, possibly brought on by exhaustion. Maya's family blamed me, said I'd taken her somewhere dangerous, let something happen to her. We broke up 2 months later. She moved back to Dallas. Last I heard, she was seeing a therapist who specializes in trauma. I stayed in Houston, got a new job, one that doesn't require as much screen time. I see my own therapist twice a week. I take medication to help me sleep, but I fight it. I try to stay awake as long as I can, because I still lose time. Not as much as we did in the forest. Just an hour here, 2 hours there. But it's getting worse. Last week I lost 4 hours. I went to bed at midnight and woke up at 7 a.m., even though my clock showed I'd only been asleep for 3 hours. Sometimes when I'm falling asleep, I feel it. That pulling sensation. Something trying to drag me down deeper than I should go. Something hungry, patient, eternal. And sometimes, in the split second before I lose consciousness, I see her. Maya, but not Maya. Standing at the foot of my bed, smiling that wrong smile. Waiting. I've thought about going back to Kisachi Forest, trying to find Valentine Lake RV Park again, see if I can get answers. But I'm afraid that if I go back, I'll sleep and never wake up, that whatever's taking my time will take all of it. So I'm writing this instead, documenting what happened while I still remember, while I'm still me. If you're reading this, if you're planning to go camping somewhere remote, pay attention to your time. Set alarms. Wake up when you're supposed to. Because there are things in the deep woods, in the places where civilization ends, that feed on time. Your time. They take it hour by hour, day by day, until there's nothing left of you but a skin suit for something else to wear. Every time you sleep, you give them a chance. And they are patient. They can wait forever, but you can't. I keep checking my watch, obsessively, making sure the hours are passing at the right rate, that I'm not losing time. It's 2:47 p.m. right now as I write this. When I look up at the clock on the wall, it says 5:33 p.m. I don't remember those 3 hours, and I wasn't asleep. My name is Brian Foster. I need to write this down while I still remember it clearly, before the details start to blur the way memories do. This happened 3 weeks ago in Ocala National Forest, and I'm still trying to make sense of it. Marcus had been pestering me about this trip for months. We'd been roommates in college, stayed close after graduation, but life got complicated. I went through a divorce that took 2 years to finalize, and somewhere in there I'd stopped returning calls and texts the way I used to. Marcus wouldn't let it go. He'd show up at my apartment with coffee, drag me to lunch, keep saying I needed to get out of the city. Just a weekend, he said. Me, you, Jen, and maybe Kyle if he's free. We'll rent an RV, do some hiking, drink some beer. Nothing dramatic. I said yes because it was easier than saying no, and because part of me knew he was right. I'd been living in my head too much, working from home, ordering groceries online. The divorce had turned me into someone I didn't recognize, and I figured maybe a few days in the forest would help. We met at the rental place on a Friday morning in early November. Marcus had picked out a 30-foot Class C RV, bigger than we needed, but he liked having space. Jen was already there, loading supplies into the storage compartments. She gave me a hug that felt genuine, which I appreciated. She'd been good to me during the divorce, never taking sides, just being present. Kyle showed up last, carrying a backpack and wearing expensive hiking boots that looked brand new. He was Marcus's co-worker, mid-20s, one of those guys who's enthusiastic about everything. I'd met him twice before and found him exhausting, but he was harmless. The drive to Ocala National Forest took about 6 hours. Marcus drove the first half while Jen navigated and Kyle tried to get the RV's entertainment system to connect to his phone. I sat in the back and watched the landscape change from urban sprawl to highway to something greener and more isolated. We arrived at the campground around 4 in the afternoon. The place was bigger than I'd expected, with maybe 50 sites spread out along a network of dirt roads. Most were empty. November isn't peak camping season in Florida, and the few RVs we saw looked like they belonged to retirees. Our site was toward the back of the campground, nestled between pine trees and palmettos. The ranger who'd checked us in had been polite but distant, giving us a map and explaining the basic rules. No loud music after 10. Keep food stored properly. Stay on marked trails. Standard stuff. We spent the evening setting up camp and cooking dinner on the RV's propane stove. Marcus made his famous chili, which was actually just canned chili with extra hot sauce, but it tasted good after the long drive. We sat outside at the picnic table drinking beer and talking about nothing important. Kyle told a long story about a server failure at work that I didn't follow. Jen talked about her mother's upcoming surgery. Marcus ribbed me about my dating life, which was non-existent. It felt normal, almost boring. I remember thinking that maybe this trip would be exactly what Marcus had promised. Nothing dramatic. We decided to do a short hike before sunset, just to stretch our legs. The ranger had mentioned a trail that led to a small lake about 2 miles from the campground. Marcus grabbed the map, and we headed out. The trail was well marked at first. Orange blazes on the trees every 50 feet or so. The path clear and wide enough to walk 2 abreast. Kyle took photos with his phone, trying to catch the light filtering through the canopy. Jen pointed out various plants, surprising me with how much she knew about Florida vegetation. We'd been walking maybe 20 minutes when we came to the tree. It was dead, completely dead. Not just bare branches, but actually dead. Gray wood, no bark, standing alone in a small clearing off to the right of the trail. Maybe 15 feet tall, thick trunk, twisted branches reaching up like fingers. Someone had carved symbols into it. Not initials or hearts or the usual trail graffiti. Geometric shapes, overlapping circles and lines, running from about waist height to as high as someone could reach. Weird, Kyle said, walking over to examine it. These look old. They did look old. The wood around the carvings had weathered, darkened, but the symbols themselves were deep, deliberate. Someone had spent time on them. Probably some old surveying marks, Marcus said. Or maybe Native American? These aren't Native American, Jen said. She was standing back, arms crossed. Wrong style. These look like, I don't know, amateur occult stuff maybe. Wannabe witches. Kyle laughed and took a photo. I walked around the tree once, studying the symbols without really knowing what I was looking at. Then we continued to the lake. The lake was small and unremarkable. We stood on the shore for 10 minutes, took some photos, and headed back. The light was fading, and none of us had brought flashlights. That's when things got strange. We walked back the way we'd come, following the orange blazes. But after about 30 minutes of walking, longer than it had taken us to reach the lake, we came to the tree again. The same dead tree, same clearing, same symbols. Did we loop around somehow? Kyle asked. Marcus pulled out the map. No, this is a straight trail, out and back. We should have passed the RV by now. Maybe we missed a turn, I said. There weren't any turns, Jen said. Her voice was flat, factual. This is a simple trail. We stood there for a minute, all of us looking at the tree. I felt something then, a small knot of unease in my stomach, but I pushed it away. We'd just gotten confused. It happens. Okay, Marcus said. Let's be more careful. Watch for the blazes. We walked past the tree, staying on what was clearly the trail, and kept going. The light was almost gone now, the forest around us turning gray and shadowy. Kyle used his phone as a flashlight. 15 minutes later, we came to the tree again. This doesn't make sense, Kyle said. He wasn't laughing anymore. Marcus stopped walking. He stood very still, staring at the tree. We're going in the wrong direction, he said finally. We must be. Let's turn around. So we turned around and walked the other direction. This time we counted our steps, paid attention to every detail. The trail curved slightly to the left, then straightened. We passed a fallen log, then some large rocks, then the curve again, then the tree. Fuck this, Jen said. It was the first time I'd heard her swear all day. Kyle was already on his phone, trying to pull up GPS. I don't have signal, he said. No bars at all. We're in a national forest, Marcus said. That's normal. I had signal at the campsite, Kyle said. We tried different directions. We tried walking backwards while watching the trail. We tried following what we thought was the tree line. Every time, within 10 or 20 minutes, we'd end up at the same clearing, the same dead tree. By the time we finally gave up, it was fully dark. Kyle's phone battery was dying, and we were all exhausted and frustrated. We sat down near the tree, not too close, nobody wanted to be too close to it, and tried to think. People don't just get stuck in loops, and Jen said, that's not how forests work. Maybe there's something wrong with our sense of direction, I offered, like a magnetic anomaly or something. Messes with your inner ear. That's not a real thing, Marcus said. So what's your explanation? I asked. He didn't have one. We sat there for maybe an hour, resting and arguing about what to do. Eventually, Kyle suggested we just pick a direction and commit to it, walk for as long as it took. But we were tired. and the idea of walking through the dark forest for hours didn't appeal to anyone. "We'll wait until morning," Marcus decided. "We can't be that far from the campground. When it's light, we'll figure this out." So we stayed there, sitting in the clearing near the dead tree. It was cold, not freezing but uncomfortable. None of us had jackets. We huddled together, trying to conserve body heat. I didn't sleep. I don't think any of us did. We just sat there in the dark, listening to the sounds of the forest. Insects chirping, something rustling in the underbrush, the wind moving through the trees. At some point, I didn't check my watch, but it felt like maybe 3 or 4 in the morning. I realized the symbols on the tree had changed. I didn't say anything at first. I thought maybe I was remembering them wrong or seeing things in the dark. But when the sky started to lighten and I could see them clearly, I knew I wasn't mistaken. The symbols were different. Not completely different, but rearranged. Some of the circles were now on the left side of the trunk instead of the right. Some of the lines connected differently. It was subtle enough that you might not notice if you weren't paying attention, but I'd spent enough time staring at that tree. "Marcus," I said quietly, "look at the tree." He looked. I watched his face as he processed it. "That's not possible," he said. "I know. We're at a different tree. Must be. There's more than one dead tree out here. With the exact same clearing, the exact same position on the trail." He didn't answer. Jen woke up then, stiff and uncomfortable. Kyle had fallen asleep leaning against her, and she pushed him off gently. He mumbled something and opened his eyes. "It's morning," Jen said. "Let's get out of here." We walked. We picked what looked like south based on the position of the sun, and we walked. Within 15 minutes we were back at the tree. Different symbols now, I was certain of it. They'd changed again. "Okay," Marcus said. His voice was tight, controlled. "Okay, this is fine, we'll shout. Someone will hear us. The campground can't be that far away." So we shouted. All 4 of us standing in the clearing, yelling for help. We did this for maybe 20 minutes, until our throats were raw. Nobody answered. Kyle sat down hard on the ground. "This isn't happening," he said. "This is some kind of stress reaction. We're having a mass hallucination." "That's not a real thing either," Jen said. "Then what's your explanation?" Kyle shot back, echoing my words from the night before. She didn't have one. We tried walking again, and again. Same result. By midday we were back in the clearing, exhausted and dehydrated and starting to panic. The tree's symbols had changed twice more. I'd stopped pointing it out because it didn't matter. Nothing mattered except getting back to the RV. "We need water," Jen said. "We're not thinking clearly." She was right. My head hurt and my mouth felt like sandpaper. We'd brought nothing with us on what was supposed to be a simple sunset hike. "There's the lake," Kyle said. "We got there once. Maybe we can get there again." It seemed as good a plan as any. We walked, and this time, maybe because we wanted to reach the lake instead of the campground, we actually made progress. 20 minutes later, we were standing at the shore, drinking water we'd cupped in our hands and knew we probably shouldn't drink but didn't care. "We'll follow the shore," Marcus said. "Lakes don't loop. If we keep the water on our left and just walk, we'll eventually get somewhere different." It made sense. We walked along the shore, stepping over roots and rocks, staying close to the water. The lake was bigger than I'd remembered from the day before. We walked for what felt like hours, and the shore never changed. Same trees, same shallow water, same muddy banks. And then we came to the trailhead, the same spot where we'd stood yesterday taking photos. The orange blazes on the trees, the small sign marking the path back to the campground. "No," Kyle said. "No, we walked away from this, we walked the opposite direction." But there it was. We stood there, all of us staring at the trailhead, trying to understand how we'd ended up back where we started. "Fine," Marcus said. "Fine. We'll take the trail. We'll go back to the campground. This is what we wanted anyway." So we took the trail. We walked carefully, staying together, watching for any signs we'd missed before. The trail led us through the forest, past fallen logs and rocks and curves we recognized. And then, inevitably, we came to the clearing. The dead tree stood there, its symbols different again. This time they looked almost like letters, like someone had tried to spell something but hadn't quite managed it. Jen walked up to the tree and put her hand on it. She ran her fingers over the carvings, tracing the shapes. "These are fresh," she said. "Look, you can see where the wood's still light inside the cuts." She was right. The symbols looked worn and weathered, but the cuts themselves were clean, recent. Someone had carved them recently, maybe within the past day or two. "Who's doing this?" Kyle asked. His voice cracked slightly. "Who's fucking with us?" "Maybe we should stop walking," and I said. "Maybe we should stay here and wait for someone to find us." "Nobody's looking for us," Marcus said. "We're not even officially missing yet. We weren't supposed to check in anywhere." We spent the rest of the day in the clearing. We took turns trying to sleep while others kept watch. We talked through theories: magnetic anomalies, gas leaks causing hallucinations, some kind of elaborate prank, but none of them made sense. The sun moved across the sky in the normal way. We got hungry, thirsty, tired. Everything felt real except for the impossible fact that we couldn't leave. As it got dark again, Kyle stood up suddenly. "I'm going to walk," he said. "I'm just going to pick a direction and walk until something changes. You can come or not." "Kyle, don't," Jen said. "We should stay together." "Why?" "Staying together hasn't helped." He pulled out his phone, checked the battery. "I've got 10% left, enough for a flashlight for a while." Marcus stood up too. "I'll go with you." "No," Kyle said. "I want to go alone. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we're not supposed to be together." It was a strange thing to say, and I didn't like it, but I was too tired to argue. Jen looked like she wanted to protest, but she didn't. We watched Kyle walk into the forest, his phone light bouncing between the trees, getting smaller and smaller until it disappeared. We waited. Hours passed. Kyle didn't come back. "We should go look for him," I said, though the thought of walking through the dark forest again filled me with dread. "And get more lost?" Jen asked. "He's an adult. He made his choice." "Jen, what do you want me to say, Brian? I'm scared. I'm fucking terrified, and I don't know what to do." Marcus put his arm around her. We sat there in the dark, leaning against each other for warmth, listening to the forest sounds. I kept expecting Kyle to come back, to hear his voice calling out or see his phone light returning through the trees. But there was nothing. I must have dozed off eventually, because I woke up to sunlight and the sound of someone walking. I jerked awake, scrambling to my feet. Kyle was standing at the edge of the clearing, watching us. "Jesus Christ," Marcus said, standing up too. "Where the hell have you been?" Kyle didn't answer right away. He just stood there, his hands at his sides, his face blank. He looked the same clothes, same face. But something was off. His posture, maybe. The way he held his head slightly tilted. "Kyle?" Jen said. "I walked," Kyle said. His voice sounded normal. "I walked for a long time. I found the campground." "You did." Marcus took a step forward. "Where? How do we get there?" "It's close," Kyle said. "Very close. I can show you." "Then why didn't you come get us right away?" I asked. "Why didn't you bring help?" Kyle's head tilted the other way. "I wanted to rest first. I was tired." "You rested at the campground?" Jen asked. "Yes." "Did you see other people? The ranger? Anyone?" "No," Kyle said. "Just us." Something about this conversation felt wrong. Kyle's answers were too simple, too flat, and he wasn't moving right. He stood perfectly still between sentences, no shifting weight, no fidgeting. Kyle always fidgeted. "Show us," Marcus said. "Let's go." Kyle turned and walked into the forest. We followed him, staying close together. He moved confidently, never hesitating, taking us through undergrowth and around trees with the kind of certainty you'd have if you'd walked the route many times. 10 minutes later, We came back to the clearing. The dead tree stood there, its symbols different again. Kyle stopped walking. He stood in front of the tree, his back to us. "Kyle?" Marcus said. "What are you doing?" Kyle turned around slowly. He was smiling. It was a terrible smile, too wide, showing too many teeth. "We're here," he said. "This is where we're supposed to be." "No," Jen said, backing up. "No, something's wrong with you." "Nothing's wrong," Kyle said. "I just understand now. The tree wants us here. It's been trying to show us." "The tree doesn't want anything," Marcus said. "It's a tree." "Kyle, you're not making sense. Did you hit your head or something?" Kyle took a step toward us. His movements were jerky now, unnatural. "You'll understand soon, too. Once you stop fighting it. Once you let it in." I grabbed Marcus's arm. "We need to go," I said quietly. "Now." "I'm not leaving him," Marcus said. "That's not Kyle anymore," Jen said. She was already backing away, moving toward the trail. "Look at him. Really look at him." I looked. Kyle's eyes were wrong. Not the color, not anything obvious, but there was something behind them that wasn't right. Like he was looking at us but not seeing us. Like he was focused on something else entirely. "Kyle," Marcus said, his voice steady and calm. "Come with us. We'll figure this out together." Kyle laughed. It didn't sound like his laugh. It was higher, sharper, almost like glass breaking. "There's nothing to figure out," he said. "The tree showed me. All those symbols, all those paths. They're not trying to trap us. They're trying to teach us." "Teach us what?" I asked, even though I didn't want to know. Kyle's smile widened impossibly further. "How to stay." Then he lunged. It wasn't a normal movement. He didn't run or tackle. He just moved impossibly fast, closing the distance between us in what felt like a single motion. His hands grabbed Marcus's shoulders, and Marcus screamed. I don't remember deciding to run. I just found myself running, crashing through the underbrush with Jen beside me. Behind us I could hear Marcus yelling, and then a sound that might have been laughter or crying or something else entirely. We ran for a long time. We ran until our lungs burned and our legs gave out, and then we collapsed behind a fallen log, gasping for air. "We have to go back," I said when I could breathe again. "Marcus." "Marcus is gone," Jen said. Her face was white, her hands shaking. "You saw what happened to Kyle. The same thing is happening to Marcus, or worse." "We don't know that." "Yes, we do." We sat there for a few minutes trying to think, trying to make sense of what we'd seen, trying to decide what to do next. "Okay," I said finally. "Okay. We keep moving. We find a way out. Then we get help. We come back with rangers, with police, with whoever will listen." Jen nodded. We stood up and started walking again, more carefully this time. We tried to move in a straight line, tried to pay attention to landmarks. We saw the same trees, the same clearings, the same fallen logs, but we didn't see the dead tree. For hours we didn't see it. We walked until the sun started to set, and I began to think maybe we'd actually broken free. Maybe whatever had trapped us was specific to that clearing, and now that we'd left it behind, we could find our way out. Then Jen grabbed my arm. "Listen," she said. I stopped. At first I didn't hear anything unusual, just the normal forest sounds, birds, insects, wind. But then I heard it. Someone singing. It was Kyle's voice. I recognized it immediately. He was singing something I didn't recognize, words that didn't sound like English, a melody that rose and fell in ways that made my head hurt. "We need to move," Jen said. We moved, trying to be quiet, trying to put distance between us and that voice, but it followed us. Sometimes it sounded closer, sometimes farther away, but it never stopped. Kyle, or whatever Kyle had become, was tracking us. Night fell, and we kept moving. We held hands so we wouldn't get separated in the dark. We stumbled over roots and rocks, scratched our arms on branches, but we didn't stop. The singing continued, sometimes so close I could have sworn he was right behind us. sometimes so distant it seemed to come from everywhere at once. And then, just when I thought we couldn't walk anymore, we saw lights ahead. Real lights. Electric lights. The campground, Jen said. Oh God, we made it. We ran toward the lights, crashing through the last bit of forest, and we did reach a campground, but it wasn't our campground. The RVs were old, rusted. The paths were overgrown. Everything looked abandoned, like no one had been here in years. This isn't right, I said. It doesn't matter, Jen said. There's a road. Look. She pointed and I saw it. A dirt road leading away from the campground. Roads lead somewhere. We follow it. So we followed it. We walked down the dirt road in the dark, hoping each turn would bring us to a highway to civilization to help. The road curved and twisted, and after what felt like miles but might have been less, it led us to a clearing. The dead tree stood in the center of it. Different symbols now covering every inch of the trunk, and standing next to the tree, waiting for us, was Kyle. Behind him was Marcus, or what was left of Marcus. He stood the same way Kyle did, perfectly still, head tilted at that unnatural angle. His clothes were torn, and there was blood on his hands. "Welcome back," Kyle said. "We've been waiting." Jen broke. She just broke. She fell to her knees, sobbing, her hands over her face. I wanted to run again, but there was nowhere to go. We'd tried running. We'd tried everything. "What do you want?" I asked. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "The tree wants you to understand," Kyle said. "The symbols are a map of paths that loop back on themselves, a map of how to stay in the spaces between spaces." "That doesn't mean anything," and I said. "It means everything," and Marcus said. His voice was exactly like Kyle's now, that same flat tone. "The tree has been here longer than the forest. It remembers when this place was somewhere else. It remembers all the people who've tried to leave and couldn't, all the people who learned to stay." "We don't want to stay," I said. "You don't have a choice," Kyle said. "None of us do. Once the tree finds you, once it shows you the paths, you're part of it. You're part of the pattern." Kyle and Marcus moved closer, not walking, just moving, that same impossible speed from before. I grabbed Jen, tried to pull her up, but she wouldn't move. She just knelt there, sobbing, broken. "I'm sorry," I said to her. "I'm so sorry." And then Kyle and Marcus were on us. I don't remember much after that. I remember pain. I remember my own voice screaming. I remember Jen's screams cutting off suddenly. Too suddenly. I remember hands that were too strong, fingers that dug too deep. I remember being dragged, the ground scraping against my back. I remember being propped up against the tree, the symbols pressing into my spine. And then I remember understanding. The symbols weren't random. They were instructions. They were a code, a language, a map of how to move through the forest in ways that defied normal space. They showed you how to loop back, how to find the spaces where reality bent, how to trap yourself and others in the patterns. The tree had been carved by people like me, people who'd gotten lost, people who'd found the clearing and couldn't leave. Each person added more symbols, more paths, more loops. The tree was growing, not physically but conceptually, expanding its reach through the forest, creating more and more impossible paths. And now, I was part of it. Now I understood. I came back to myself slowly. I was sitting against the tree, my hands resting on my knees. Jen was next to me, sitting in exactly the same position. Kyle and Marcus stood in front of us, watching, waiting. "Do you understand now?" Kyle asked. "Yeah," I heard myself say. "I understand." And I did. I understood how to read the symbols. I understood how to walk the paths that led nowhere and everywhere. I understood that the forest had always been like this, that we'd simply been the latest to discover it. "What do we do now?" Marcus asked. "We wait," I said. "We wait for others to come. We show them the tree. We teach them to stay. So that's what we do. We wait in the clearing, the four of us, watching the symbols change and grow. Sometimes we hear voices in the distance, hikers calling out for help. Sometimes we see lights moving through the trees. And when they get close enough, we go to them. We tell them we can help. We offer to show them the way. And we bring them back to the tree. I'm writing this during one of the moments when I can still think clearly, when the tree's influence loosens just slightly. These moments are getting rarer. Most of the time I feel nothing but a cold contentment, a sense of purpose that doesn't feel like my own. But right now, in this moment, I remember who I was. I remember Marcus pestering me about the trip. I remember Jen hugging me at the rental place. I remember thinking this would be nothing dramatic. If you're reading this, I don't know how you found it. Maybe I managed to send it somehow, in one of these brief windows of clarity. Maybe you found my phone in the forest, though I don't remember having it with me. It doesn't matter. What matters is this. If you're planning to visit Ocala National Forest, if you're going to hike the trails near the campground, stay on the marked paths. Don't follow anyone who offers to show you a shortcut. Don't go near any dead trees with symbols carved into them. And if you find yourself walking in circles, if you keep coming back to the same clearing no matter which direction you go, don't try to understand the symbols. Don't let them teach you. Don't stay. Run. Keep running. Run until your legs give out, until your heart pounds so hard you think it'll burst, until you can't possibly run anymore. And then run some more. Because the alternative is understanding. And once you understand, once the tree shows you the paths, you'll never leave. I can feel the clarity fading now. The symbols are calling to me again, pulling my thoughts back into their patterns. Soon I'll forget I wrote this. Soon I'll forget I was ever anything other than what I am now. We wait in the clearing. The four of us, and others who came before, and others who will come after. We wait by the dead tree and we watch the symbols change, and we are content. We are the same dead tree now. We are the paths that loop back. We are the map that leads nowhere. We wait. We wait for you. My name is Chris Turner. What happened to me at Palo Duro Canyon in Texas happened in September of 2023. And I'm writing this down because I need to get it out. I need someone to know. Not because I think anyone will believe me, but because if I don't tell someone, I think I'll lose what's left of my mind. I'm 36 years old. I work in data analysis for an insurance company in Dallas. My marriage ended in March of that year. No dramatic reason. We just stopped working. Sarah moved out, took the dog, and I kept the apartment and the couch we'd bought together at IKEA. By September, I was tired of looking at that couch every night. Tired of the same walls, tired of the routine of work and microwave dinners and Netflix until I fell asleep. So I rented an RV, a 24-foot Class C from a place off I-35. The guy who ran the rental place was probably in his 60s, had a belly that hung over his belt, and spent 20 minutes showing me how everything worked. The shower, the propane, the electrical hookups, the black water tank. I nodded through all of it, took his photocopied instruction sheet, and drove off on a Friday afternoon with no real plan except to get away. I chose Palo Duro Canyon because I'd never been. It's the second largest canyon system in the United States, which I only knew because I'd Googled camping near Dallas and it came up. About 6 hours from where I lived. Far enough to feel like I'd gone somewhere. The website showed pictures of red rock formations and juniper trees and wide open sky. It looked empty. That was what I wanted. I got there around sunset. The canyon is near Amarillo, set in the middle of flat Texas prairie that suddenly drops away into this massive gash in the earth. You don't see it until you're almost on top of it. I paid the entrance fee at the ranger station, a woman in her 50s who barely looked at me, and drove down into the canyon on a winding road that descended about 800 feet. The RV park was at the bottom, about a dozen sites, most of them empty. It was a Friday in September, not peak season. The weather was warm but not hot. I backed into site number 7, which was at the far end, away from the few other RVs and the bathhouse. I hooked up the electricity and water following the photocopied instructions, and then I sat in one of the folding chairs outside and opened a beer. It was quiet. The kind of quiet that city people don't really understand. No traffic, no sirens, no neighbors' televisions through thin walls. Just wind moving through the canyon and the occasional call of a bird I couldn't identify. The canyon walls rose up on both sides, maybe 300 feet high at that point, red and orange in the fading light. I sat there for an hour, drinking beer and not thinking about Sarah or the apartment or anything else. That first night was fine. I made a sandwich for dinner, watched part of a movie on my laptop until the battery got low and went to bed around 10. The RV bed was smaller than I was used to, and the mattress was thin, but I was tired from the drive. I fell asleep quickly. I woke up sometime in the middle of the night. I don't know exactly when. I didn't check my phone. It was dark in the RV, completely dark, the kind of dark you only get when there are no streetlights or houses nearby. I lay there for a minute trying to figure out what had woken me up. Then I heard it. A voice. Distant, echoing off the canyon walls. It sounded like someone calling out. I couldn't make out the words, but it had that quality of urgency, like someone was lost or hurt. I got up, went to the window, and looked out. I couldn't see anything. Just darkness and the faint outline of the canyon walls against the stars. I stood there for a few minutes, listening. The voice came again, faint and far away. It sounded like it was coming from deeper in the canyon, somewhere to the west. I thought about going outside to check, but then I thought about how dark it was and how I didn't know the area. People get lost in canyons all the time. If someone was out there calling for help, they'd probably already called the rangers. I got back in bed. I didn't sleep well the rest of the night. Every time I started to drift off, I'd hear that voice again, or think I did. By the time morning came, I'd convinced myself it had been an animal. Coyotes can sound almost human sometimes. I'd read that somewhere. Saturday morning was clear and warm. I made coffee on the RV's 2-burner stove and ate a granola bar for breakfast. There were a few other campers around by then, an older couple in a massive motorhome 2 sites over, a family with kids in a smaller trailer near the entrance. I nodded at the older couple when I walked past on my way to the bathhouse. They nodded back. I decided to go hiking. The canyon has about 30 miles of trails, and I picked one that the map at the trailhead said was moderate difficulty, about 5 miles round trip, going deeper into the canyon and looping back. I packed a backpack with water bottles, sunscreen, my phone, and some trail mix. I left around 9 in the morning. The trail started out easy, mostly flat, following a dry creek bed. The canyon walls were steep on both sides, layered in bands of red and brown and white. Juniper trees and mesquite scattered around. It was pretty in a harsh way, the kind of landscape that doesn't care if you're there or not. I passed a few other hikers going the opposite direction in the first mile. We did that thing where you say morning or nice day and keep walking. After about 45 minutes, I hadn't seen anyone else. The trail started climbing, switchbacks up the side of the canyon wall. It was steeper than I'd expected. I stopped a few times to drink water and catch my breath. I reached the top of the ridge around 11. The view was worth it. You could see for miles across the canyon floor, all the way to the other side. I took a photo on my phone, sent it to my brother in Austin with the caption, "Better than the office." He texted back a thumbs up emoji. That's when I heard it the first time. My own voice, calling for help. I need to be clear about this. It wasn't someone who sounded like me. It wasn't an echo of something I'd said. It was my voice, my exact voice, with my inflection and my vocal patterns, coming from somewhere deeper in the canyon, calling out, "Help! Somebody help me!" I froze, stood there on that ridge with my phone in my hand and listened. It came again, fainter now, from somewhere below me and to the west, where the canyon branched off into a side gorge. "Hello?" I called out. My voice echoed off the rock walls. Echo, echo, echo. But that other voice didn't respond. I waited. Nothing. I looked at the trail map on my phone. The path I was on looped back to the trailhead from here, but there was another trail, unmarked on my map, that seemed to branch off toward where I'd heard the voice. Just a faint line of disturbed earth between the rocks. I want to be clear about my thinking at that moment. I'm not an idiot. I know that following strange voices into canyons is how people end up on search and rescue reports, but it was my voice. That's what got me. If it had been anyone else's voice, any other sound, I would have turned around and hiked back. But hearing yourself calling for help does something to you. It creates this obligation, this weird responsibility to yourself. I started down the unmarked trail. It was rougher than the main path. More rock scrambling, less clear where the trail even was. I had to use my hands in places to climb down between boulders. The canyon walls got steeper, closed in on both sides. The temperature dropped as I got deeper. The sun couldn't reach this far down. I called out again. Hello? Where are you? Nothing. Just my echo bouncing back. I checked my phone. Still had signal, 2 bars. The time was 11:47 a.m. I took a screenshot of my map, showing my location, just in case. You hear about people getting lost in places like this. I didn't want to be that person. The side canyon twisted and turned. I followed it for maybe 20 minutes, calling out every few minutes. No response. I was about to turn back when I saw something ahead. A flash of color against the red rock. Blue fabric. I climbed over another pile of boulders and found it. A backpack. Blue and gray, expensive looking, the kind serious hikers use. It was sitting upright against a rock like someone had carefully placed it there. Not dropped or thrown. Placed. I looked around. No one. The canyon was empty except for me and the backpack. I walked closer. The pack was covered in dust like it had been there a while. Weeks, maybe. I called out again. Hello? Anyone here? My echo came back. Then, from somewhere ahead, deeper in the canyon, help. My voice again. Definitely my voice. I picked up the backpack. It was heavy. I unzipped the main compartment and looked inside. There was a water bottle, half full, a first aid kit, a rain jacket, a guidebook to Palo Duro Canyon, and a wallet. I opened the wallet. There was a driver's license inside. I looked at it. The photo was me. Christopher Allen Turner. My address in Dallas. My birth date, my license number. Everything exact. I dropped the wallet. My hands were shaking. I looked around the canyon again, half expecting someone to jump out to tell me this was some kind of prank. But there was no one. Just me and the backpack and the wallet with my license in it. I checked my own wallet. It was in my pocket, right where it should be. I pulled it out and compared the 2 licenses side by side. They were identical. Same photo, same information, same everything. The physical licenses even looked the same. Same wear pattern on the edges. Same tiny scratch near the hologram. I sat down on a rock. My heart was pounding. I tried to think logically about this. Someone was fucking with me. That was the only explanation. Someone had somehow gotten my information, printed a fake license, bought a backpack, and left it here for me to find. But why? And how would they know I'd come down this trail? How would they know I'd hear the voice? The voice. I'd heard it before I'd come down here. Before I'd found the backpack, my own voice calling for help. This isn't funny, I said out loud, to whoever might be listening. Whoever's doing this, it's not funny. Nothing, just the wind moving through the canyon. I stood up. I needed to get out of here. I left the backpack where it was, I wasn't touching it again, and started back the way I'd come. That's when I realized I wasn't sure which way I'd come from. The canyon twisted in several directions. There were 3 different passages I could take. I'd come from one of them, I was sure of that, but I couldn't remember which one. They all looked the same. Narrow gaps between red rock walls scattered with boulders. I pulled out my phone to check the map. No signal. I looked at the screenshot I'd taken earlier. It showed my previous location. But down here, everything looked different. The rock formations were too similar. I couldn't orient myself. I picked the passage that felt right and started walking. It climbed upward, which seemed correct. I'd climbed down to get here, but after 10 minutes it dead-ended at a wall of rock too steep to climb. I went back and tried another passage. This one went on for a while before it started sloping downward. That was wrong. I was supposed to be going up. I turned around again. I checked my phone. Still no signal. The time was 12:33 p.m. I'd been down here for almost an hour. I tried the third passage. This one seemed more familiar. I recognized a boulder shaped like a mushroom, remembered climbing over it. I started to relax. I was on the right track. I walked for maybe 20 minutes. The passage opened up into a wider area, a small clearing between the canyon walls. And there, sitting against a rock, was the blue backpack. The same backpack, in the same position like I'd never left. I stopped walking, looked around. This was impossible. I'd walked away from here. I'd gone through passages, climbed over rocks. I couldn't have circled back to the same spot. But there it was, the backpack. I walked closer. It was the same one. I could see the same scuff mark on the front pocket, the same dust pattern. I looked inside. The wallet was there. My license. I backed away. My heart was doing this thing where it felt like it was beating too fast and too slow at the same time. I was lightheaded. I sat down on a rock and put my head between my knees. There had to be an explanation. Maybe there were two backpacks. Maybe someone had left two identical backpacks with fake IDs in two different spots as part of some elaborate prank. That made no sense. But it was better than the alternative, which was that I was losing my mind, or that something impossible was happening. I stood up. I needed to stay calm. I needed to get out of this canyon. I picked a direction, not one of the passages I'd tried before, a fourth one I hadn't noticed earlier, and started walking. This passage was narrower than the others. I had to turn sideways in places to squeeze between the rock walls. It went on for a long time, maybe 30 feet, before it opened up into another clearing. In the clearing was the blue backpack. I started running. I don't know where I thought I was running to, but I couldn't stay there. I couldn't stand there and look at that backpack again. I ran back through the narrow passage back into the previous clearing and picked a different direction. Any direction. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs cramped. I came out in a wider part of the canyon. The sun was overhead now, the walls weren't as steep. I could see the sky. I stopped running and bent over, trying to catch my breath. When I stood up, I saw someone. A hiker. A man. He was maybe 50 yards away, sitting on a rock, facing away from me. He was wearing jeans and a gray t-shirt and a baseball cap. He wasn't moving. "Hey," I called out. My voice cracked. "Hey, excuse me." The man didn't turn around, didn't react at all. I walked toward him. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm a little lost. Do you know the way back to the main trail?" Still nothing. I got closer. I could see that he was sitting very still, unnaturally still. People don't sit that still. They shift their weight, adjust their position, move their head. This man was like a statue. I walked around to see his face. It was me. Same face, same build, same everything. Wearing clothes I didn't own. I'd never seen that gray t-shirt before, didn't own a baseball cap like that, but it was my face. The man sitting on the rock had my exact face. His eyes were open. He was staring straight ahead, not blinking, not breathing. I waved my hand in front of his face, nothing, no reaction. He just sat there staring. I backed away. I turned and ran again. I didn't care what direction anymore, I just ran. I don't know how long I ran. Time felt weird, like it was stretching and compressing at the same time. The sun seemed to move too fast across the sky. Shadows changed. I'd look at my phone, and it would say 1:15 p.m. Then I'd look again, and it would say 11:52 a.m. Then 2:47 p.m. Nothing made sense. I heard the voice again. My voice. Closer now. "Help me. Please. Someone help me." I stopped running. I stood in the middle of the canyon and screamed. "I'm right here. I'm trying to help. Where are you?" The echo came back. Then silence. Then, from directly ahead, "I can't find my way out." I walked toward the voice. I came around a bend and saw another clearing. In the clearing was a figure. Standing this time. Facing away from me. Same height as me. Same build. Wearing the clothes I was wearing. Jeans, a blue button-down shirt, hiking boots. "Hey," I said quietly. My voice barely worked. The figure didn't move. I walked closer. Are you me?" The figure turned around. It was my face, but something was wrong with it. The features were right. My nose, my eyes, my mouth, but they were arranged slightly wrong. Like someone had looked at a photo of me and tried to recreate my face from memory and got it 95% right, but not quite all the way. The eyes were a little too far apart. The mouth was a little too wide. It smiled at me. The smile was too big. Too many teeth. "Help me," it said in my voice. "I can't find my way out." I ran. Again, I didn't look back. I don't remember much of the next part. I remember climbing. I remember my hands bleeding from grabbing rocks. I remember the sun beating down. I remember being thirsty, but my water bottles were empty. I remember checking my phone over and over, but the time kept changing and I had no signal, and the map showed me in places I couldn't possibly be. I remember finding the trail, the main trail, the one I'd started on. I remember recognizing the switchbacks, the view across the canyon. I remember thinking I was safe. I got back to the trailhead around, I don't know what time. My phone said 4:47 p.m. That seemed right. The sun was lower. Evening was coming. There were other people in the parking lot. The older couple I'd seen that morning, a family loading kids into an SUV. Normal people doing normal things. I wanted to run up to them and tell them what had happened. But what would I say? That I'd seen myself sitting on a rock? That I'd found my own backpack with my own ID in it? They'd think I'd had heat stroke. Maybe I had. Maybe that's what it was. I got back to my RV. Site number 7. Everything looked the same as I'd left it. I went inside and drank about a liter of water straight from the jug. I sat on the bed and tried to calm down. My hands were still shaking. I checked my phone. It had signal now. I pulled up a browser and Googled, "Hearing your own voice, Palo Duro Canyon." Nothing relevant came up. I tried doppelganger Palo Duro. Still nothing. Strange experiences Palo Duro Canyon. That brought up a few results. A forum post from 2019 about someone who'd gotten lost on a trail and heard voices. A blog post about local legends. Nothing about seeing yourself or finding your own belongings. I sat there until it got dark. I didn't want to go outside. I made a peanut butter sandwich for dinner but could barely eat it. I kept thinking about that figure, the one with the wrong face, the too wide smile. Around 8 o'clock, someone knocked on my RV door. I froze, didn't move, didn't breathe. Another knock. "Hello? Anyone home?" A woman's voice, not mine. I relaxed a little. I opened the door. It was a ranger. 40s, short hair, uniform. She had a flashlight even though it wasn't quite dark yet. "Evening," she said. "Sorry to bother you. We're checking with all the campers. Did you happen to see anyone on the trails today who seemed lost or in distress?" "No," I said. "Then, why?" "We got a report from another hiker. They said they heard someone calling for help from one of the side canyons this afternoon. We sent a team out to check but didn't find anyone. Just wanted to make sure all our registered campers were accounted for." "What time was this?" I asked. She checked a notepad. "Call came in around 2:30. The hiker said they heard it while on the ridge trail. That was around the time I'd been down in the side canyon, hearing my own voice." "Did the hiker say what the voice sounded like?" I asked. The ranger looked at me strangely. "Just that it sounded like someone in distress." "Why?" "No reason," I said. "I didn't see anyone. I was hiking this morning but came back around 4 or 5. She nodded. "All right. Well, if you hear anything tonight, give us a call. Emergency number is posted at the bathhouse." She started to walk away, then turned back. "Oh, and one more thing. If you're planning to hike tomorrow, maybe stick to the main trails. Some of the side canyons can be tricky. We had a hiker go missing back in 2018. Never found him. His backpack turned up a few months later, but that was it." "What kind of backpack?" I asked. My throat was dry again. "Blue and gray, I think. Why?" "No reason," I said. Thanks for the warning. She left. I closed the door and locked it. Then I checked it twice to make sure it was locked. I didn't sleep that night. I tried. I lay in bed with my phone next to me, the screen facing up so the light would fill the RV. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure with the wrong face. Heard my own voice calling for help. Around midnight, I heard something outside. Footsteps. Someone walking around my RV. Slow, deliberate steps. They circled the RV once, then stopped at the door. A knock. "Help me," said my voice from outside. "I can't find my way out." I didn't answer. I lay there in bed, not moving, barely breathing. The knock came again. "Please," said my voice. "It's dark. I'm scared." I stayed silent. After a few minutes, the footsteps walked away. I checked the window. Nothing out there. Just darkness and the vague shapes of other RVs in the distance. The voice came again, farther away now. From the direction of the canyon. "Help me. Someone help me." Then it was quiet. I left at first light. Didn't shower, didn't make coffee, didn't clean up the RV. I just disconnected everything, started the engine, and drove. Up out of the canyon, past the ranger station, back onto the highway toward Dallas. I returned the RV that afternoon. The guy who ran the rental place asked how my trip was. I told him it was fine. He didn't seem to notice how badly my hands were shaking when I signed the return paperwork. I went back to my apartment, went back to work on Monday, told my coworkers I'd had a nice, quiet weekend camping, told my brother it was good to get away, told Sarah when she texted asking how I was doing that I was fine, but I'm not fine. Because 3 days after I got back, I got a phone call. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello?" Silence on the other end. Then, in my own voice, "I can't find my way out." I hung up, blocked the number, but the calls kept coming. Different numbers every time. Always the same message, always my voice. And there's something else. Something I didn't notice at first. I look in mirrors now and my reflection is slightly off. Just slightly. My eyes are a little farther apart than they used to be. My mouth is a little wider. Not enough that anyone else would notice. But I notice. Sometimes, late at night, I hear knocking on my apartment door. Slow, deliberate knocks. And my own voice, calling out, "Please, it's dark." I'm scared. I don't answer. I never answer. But here's what really bothers me. What keeps me up at night. Last week I was going through some old photos on my phone. Photos from before the trip. And in one of them, a selfie I'd taken at a restaurant with Sarah, back when we were still together. There's someone in the background. Far in the back, barely visible. A man sitting at a table by himself. He has my face. But it's wrong. The eyes are too far apart. The mouth is too wide. That photo was taken 6 months before I went to Palo Duro Canyon. I don't know what I saw out there. I don't know what I brought back with me, or if I'm the one who came back at all. I don't know if I'm Chris Turner or if I'm something that thinks it's Chris Turner. I don't know if I'm the one calling for help or if I'm the one who answered. All I know is that sometimes when I'm alone and it's very quiet, I can hear my own voice echoing from somewhere far away. Deep down in some dark place I can't remember and can't find. And it's still calling for help. I wrote this down because I needed to tell someone, because I needed proof that I was here, that I existed, that this happened. But I'm starting to doubt even that. I'm starting to think maybe I never left that canyon. Maybe I'm still down there, wandering in circles, calling out for help that will never come. Or maybe I got out. Maybe I'm sitting in my apartment right now typing this. Maybe I'm Chris Turner and everything is fine. But then why do I remember staying in that canyon? Why do I remember sitting on a rock waiting, unable to move? Why do I remember seeing myself walk past, seeing the fear in my own eyes, wanting to warn myself but not being able to speak? I don't know which version is real. I don't know which one I am. And I don't think I ever will. Sometimes I think about going back, driving to Palo Duro, hiking down into that side canyon, finding that backpack, finding out what's really down there, finding out what I really am. But I'm afraid. I'm afraid that if I go back, I'll find myself sitting there, waiting, with eyes that are slightly too far apart and a mouth that's slightly too wide. Or worse, I'm afraid I'll find myself there and it will be the real me, the original, and I'll have to accept that I'm the copy, the echo, the thing that crawled out of that canyon wearing Chris Turner's face. I'm afraid of learning the truth. So I stay here, in this apartment, with doors that lock and lights that work and mirrors that show me a reflection that gets a little wronger every day. And at night, when it's quiet, I listen for the voice, my voice, calling from somewhere deep and dark and far away. Sometimes I want to answer. Sometimes I want to call back, to let myself know that someone heard, that someone is listening. But I never do, because I'm afraid that if I answer, something will answer back. And I'm afraid it will sound exactly like me. This is Chris Turner. This is my story. This is what happened to me at Palo Duro Canyon in September of 2023. Or at least, that's what I remember. But memory is a strange thing down in the dark, and echoes can lie. I don't know if I'm the echo or the original voice. I don't know if anyone will read this or believe it. I don't know if it even matters. All I know is that sometimes late at night my phone rings. Unknown numbers I never answer. But I can hear my voicemail notification chime, and when I check it, there's always a new message. I never listen to them. I delete them immediately, because I know what they say. I know my own voice when I hear it. And I know that somewhere out there, in a canyon or a mirror, or a dark place I can't remember, Chris Turner is still calling for help. And I don't know if that's me or not. I don't know which one of us is real. And I don't know which one of us got out.